working? I think it's working. I think it's working. I think it's working. We're going to talk about politics. HB1136. HB1136. What is that stuff? Okay. So in Indiana, we got this cool thing called bills. And they decided that they're going to try and pass a bill in the state of Indiana, where I live. Sorry, I'm trying to get cozy. I don't have like the best. I feel like my chair is a little awkward when I play guitar because I have a stupid armrest that I can't get off. It's one of those Herman Miller Aeron chairs that I stole from my office back in the day, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so we have this cool new law that they're trying to pass in the State House. When I mean cool, I don't really mean cool. I mean like it's kind of lame. It's not very. It's not a great idea whenever you think about like the bigger context of these situations. So I'm going to go through and just explain and show how I like to understand these laws. Like how do I go in and say like what does this mean and what are the implications here? But I thought I'd play some music too, just to make it not as annoying as like listening to a class. But if you want to see and hear everything sounding better, if you're on Instagram, I have like a YouTube stream as well. It's youtube.com/mffred. It's the normal mffred. Okay, cool. So let's just get a little loop going, and then we can make it a little bit more fun. Controlling it with my toe. Up the loop there. I hit the wrong button. But we're going to see if it goes. I tried to get it to work just right, you know? Ooh, okay. I'm going to try and put some ambience on it. Ooh, look at that. Whoa. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, these overalls are too short, and they just ride up on me. But you know, the state's trying to ride up on our schools, so I'm here to tell them. I'm here to learn about it. I'm trying to understand it. I really want to get a good understanding of what this means. Maybe like talk about some of the ideas that maybe people are trying to carry out here. Okay, I've got a screen share. If you're on YouTube, you can see my iPad here. I've got the law pulled up. So what I did, I actually went to the Google machine, and I typed in House Bill 1136. And it pulled up this thing, this website, actually. Let me find the website. I have too many tabs. Don't judge my tab game. So it brought me to this website, and it said, like, House Bill 1136. And there's all these different things. There's, like, all this stuff on the left side. We've got, like, Senate amendments and House amendments and Senate roll call. It's confusing. There's, like, all this stuff. And then if you press, like, the print button, it looks like it kind of just prints out, like, that quick little, you know, digest. And I was like, okay, I just want to know, like, what it really is. So I went to latest version, which pulled up that PDF. So now I have this PDF, which gets a little bit more detail than the digest. And I think that's really interesting. Like, from a perspective of saying, like, what is happening here? The digest is very short, but the laws are pretty big and pretty detailed. Let's go through and let's just like read through it as a normal person and see what it says. But before we do that, let's see how this music sounds. Ooh, nice and spooky. Okay, cool. I got this little app here where we can do some highlighting. So I'm going to highlight things if they're green. If you guys are on my Instagram, you can go to youtube.com/@mffred. And I'm actually looking at the bill here and talking about it. HB1136. It's the bill that has been basically passed or trying to be passed that will shut down 5 different school districts and sell them off to charter schools over time. So I'm going to use like like green, yellow, and red. Kind of like, this is like good stuff, I guess. Like maybe stuff that like I understand. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Yes, Macy Ann music. That is true. What the fuck? It's crazy that they're trying to do this. But why is it crazy? And what does the bill actually say is what I'm trying to figure out. Because I like to try and understand it. And I think if you all want to too, you can follow along on YouTube. Good. I've got like good yellow is going to be like question marks maybe. That'll be like, I'm just confused. I want to do some more research on it. And then red is going to be like bad. Like, ooh, like that. I don't know. Like, I just don't really get what's going on. And I like get it and I'm mad about it. Okay. So here's what it says. The synopsis. School corporation reorganization. It's a very nice term. I'm going to put that as a red because I think sometimes we use terminology. We use like certain words to blunt what we're doing. And I think reorganization, when it's actually a sale, makes a lot of sense. School corporation reorganization provides that if more than 50% of students who have legal settlement in a school corporation were enrolled in a school that is not operated by the school corporation on the 2024 fall average daily membership count date, so last fall, the school corporation should be dissolved and all public schools of the school corporation must be transitioned to operating as charter schools. Establishes a new governing body, requirements, and procedures regarding the dissolution and reorganization of the applicable school corporations. This is funny wording here, okay? So they're using this terminology, 50% of students. So 50% of students. Let's say we have like 100 students in Marion County, 100 students. And if you all are looking at my YouTube, you can see what I'm writing. So I'm sorry if this is boring for you all on Instagram Live. We got 100 students. So if 49 or 50% of them, 50 students, don't go to a school that is 50% of students who have legal settlement in a school corporation, so live in that school district, were enrolled in a school that is not operated by the school corporation. So school district, school corporation, basically like IPS. So IPS is dealing with this right now. Now, I think one of the things that we kind of look here and we say, well, that's a really interesting wording. We've got 50% of the school district that isn't in these schools. Well, maybe we should get rid of them. Maybe if people don't even want to go to those school districts and we're trying to keep them open, we should just let them go. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe these school districts just aren't good, and maybe we just don't have good school districts. We don't have those. We don't have those here. We don't have them. I don't know why, but we just don't. We don't have good school districts as they think. And I think like a school district is a bunch of people working together to make a school district. Like, it's not anything different than a company. It's nothing different than a bunch of people cleaning up a river, a bunch of people doing a park cleanup. Like, when you look at a school district, all that it is a bunch of people working together, the state working together, proper funding, proper education for both parents and students. It's all these people kind of working together to create something that we call a school district. So whenever we're looking at this and it says, hey, we're going to get rid of any school district, we're going to sell that school district off to charter schools. if it has less than 50% enrollment, my question at the very start of that is why? So why do we have less than 50% enrollment? So I'm going through a lot of times whenever I read these articles or like I'm trying to understand what's going on in like the state house and like what laws are being passed and looking beyond just like a news story, which sometimes you can't have access to if you don't pay for the subscription. I am going in here and I'm saying like, okay, what is the question? So why are less than 50% of students enrolled? Okay, that's a good question. Students enrolled. I have to write slow. Oh, if you want to watch what I'm writing, you can find it on youtube.com/@mffred, a little @ mffred. I'm streaming on there and I've got like a little iPad screen up too. Why less than 50% of students enrolled? I'm sorry I didn't write that properly. So that's an important question here. We need to figure that one out. Why do we have less than 50% of students enrolled? Okay, cool. Hold on one second. I'm going to go put this on Do Not Disturb so I don't get a bunch of rando text messages and then have to, people just be sending me pictures. I want you all to see those pictures. I'm just kidding. It's just all stupid stuff and important stuff sometimes. Anyway, okay, so here we are. We have 50% of students who are not legally settled in that school district in 2024 fall average daily membership. Okay, this to me is like a little bit of a weird qualification. Because in my mind, let's say we would decided, let's say I worked at your company and I said, hey, guess what? We have a totally new set of rules that we want to judge all of the employees by. And this new set of rules is, anything, any specific rules. Like, I was going to make anything up. If your shoelaces are a certain color, then, you're going to get fired if your shoelaces are a certain color. And then I then said, and by the way, we're judging it on last week. We're judging it on the last 3 months. We're judging it on 6 weeks ago. Let's just say you bought some new shoes and your shoelaces were white and now you're fired from your job. Absolute chaos. Why? This is the type of like silliness that we're trying to pull on our school districts. And like, remember what a school district is. A school district, I'm going to write this down just so let me go back. I got this nice app called Muse that I'm using on my iPad. So a school district is people working to educate kids, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's people working to educate people. Little people. Child people. Put little people, like little people. Okay, so all a school district is people working together to make something happen. So if we are then telling these people who work at these school districts and manage these school districts, run these school districts, who have probably like been fighting with the state about enrollments and trying to resolve problems and do these things, and we tell them, hey, by the way, we're going to shut your school district down, probably going to lose your job. We're not only going to shut it down because it's like just not performing well. We know we're not going to scale it down to try and keep doing that. We're actually going to sell it off. So we're going to sell what taxpayers, what all of us, every single one of us has spent money building as an asset for our city to charter schools. And that's the next question, I guess. How do charter schools work, I guess? How do charter schools work financially? So I think this is a thing, to me. How do charter schools, that attendance day is important because it is the day they base funding off of. Okay, that's interesting. Why don't they give it like a 10-year or 5-year program, in my mind? And that's just like me thinking as like a person who likes to fix things and like make things better, that if I was in, let's say like I was in a relationship and my girlfriend came and she says, hey, look, dude, you put your underwear on the sink and you can't keep putting your underwear on the sink. And because you did it last week, I'm I'm breaking up with you. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that was a problem. I was raised, I'm an underwear on the sink kind of guy. Like, that's crazy. Why are you breaking up with me? She goes, well, yeah, I made a new rule, and now we're broken up with. Like, I would say, give me a couple months. Give me a month, and maybe my underwear won't be in the sink. Doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It may be a big deal to you. I didn't know. Let's work it out. Let's find a resolution. We don't have that happening right here. We have that literally happening based on what new rules being applied. And I think, to me, it's like, I know I know people who work at IPS. I know people who care, who have, like, also teachers who work at charter schools who have a good time. But to me, where I think a lot of this comes is this idea that we would be willing to sell off these assets of our city to these charter schools. Transitioned to operating. Is it sold off? That's interesting. Maybe that's a good question to ask. Sold off? Sold or given? Either way, we know what kind of happens whenever we look at a lot of real estate changes inside of Indianapolis. When we think about where our real estate has been purchased and then resold and sold, when we sell off like public buildings, we then sell them off to private investors, and maybe the state gets some amount of money. But they're able to use that money and that growth for themselves to get more money, to get access to things like better loans, more property. So like where the state uses this as an asset for the community to visit, to spend time, to fulfill certain needs. So for instance, like I went to a public school. I grew up in New Albany, Indiana. I went to Silver Street Elementary School. That's this now defunct elementary school that used to be a Civil War, hospital. And then there's like one of the first Civil War cemeteries. It was a public school, and it was something that then got sold over to a church, which was a nonprofit. We think of it as like a benefit for society. But I think of it more and more as I age, that these are assets if we are able to maintain and keep them the same way that businesses do. And if we aren't spending our time trying to take care of the things that the generations before us have handed down and have worked very hard for against the tide of history. So they've decided to make these instead of doing something else. They decided that they wanted to have public schools that were funded by the people, for the people, that serve the people, and that were competitive to private schools that had very strict limitations. And I think where my hesitancy personally on a lot of this, when I look at this idea of taking our public schools that we've worked very hard to preserve for maybe 100 years. I don't know. How long has IPS been around? Let's Google that. That's kind of interesting. IPS history. Indianapolis public school history. We got a nice Wikipedia article. Thank you, Wikipedia. We got a little Wikipedia article. History. 1800s. Okay. Shortridge High School. Huh. That's interesting. The state of Indiana was admitted in the Union in 1816. Cool. With Indianapolis receiving its charter in 1847, that same year, the people of Indiana voted in favor of public schools. Okay, I know what you're thinking. 1847. We might be a little bit past when we need that. Don't we have the internet? Don't we have charter schools? Don't we have all of these things? I think the more that the older I get, the more that I look at this kind of pattern of how businesses have decided to function since the 1970s, very specifically, is it Milton Friedman or something? Basically, this idea that came around the 1970s that said, hey, corporations' whole goal is to create more and more profit for shareholders. Shareholder value is being the big focus of all of this. When I look and think about this type of idea, if we are giving our public schools these public assets, these assets that our city owns, which means us as a people own if our city is and our government operates well, if we're giving these away to charter schools, then we're giving away an asset that we have worked hard for and preserved since 1847. Maybe we should think about that. Maybe we should think about ways that we might be able to preserve the spirit, this idea that when we got our charter in 1847, that we decided that the first thing we were going to do was going to create a high school, that we were going to create public education that was available for not all people probably in 1847, but for the majority of people that they thought were people. And as we have progressed, as we've gone on in time, we have tried harder and harder to move toward this being a regular and common thing, that we have public schools, we have access to education. If you can't afford it, it doesn't matter. It is free. You just have it. And I think that we have worked really hard to slowly, and this is kind of another big chunk out of that, to slowly chip away at this idea. So if we think about the things that we want in our society, we want people who are educated, who are understanding what they need to do in society to not only be successful individually, which is important, but to be successful in the eyes of taking care of a community. Because for a lot of us, it's not only working, going to work every day and trying to make money. It's also coming home and being a good partner. It's being a good parent. It's being a good, community member. All of these things play a really big role. A big church member. Everything plays a role in creating a better society. And as we started to defund public education, as we started to focus on very specific criterias at times, focusing on, outdated ideas and certain types of test taking and ways to kind of quantify and qualify what type of education rather than focusing on a holistic education with some things that can be qualified and some things that aren't able to be qualified. Civics, society, understandings, things about being a good citizen and ensuring this. We have started to see that our schools have crumbled. We have defunded them. We have deprioritized them. And as our schools have started to fail, there have been incentives to create alternatives. And some of these things are funded by probably billionaires. Maybe they're funded by nonprofits. Some of these are funded by independent people. Maybe let's look at how are charter schools nonprofits? So for those of you who are just joining, HB1136 is a new thing that they're trying to pass in Indiana. Okay. So they're considered nonprofits, most states. Let's look. Indiana charter schools, nonprofit. Learn more about charter schools. So I'm doing all of this to show you how I typically go through and understand this, and you all may be like, whoa, you're going to the charter schools website. Why are you at that's the enemy? No, I think that we should try and understand exactly how they speak about themselves on their own terms. If somebody explains something to you in their own way, in their own language, listen and meet on that, and then go and seek other information. You don't have to totally agree with everything. You can still read it. It's not going to put some brain bug in you that turns you into a goober or whatever. Also, if you're watching on Instagram, youtube.com/@mffred, like and subscribe. I'm on YouTube, and my iPad is on there. Indiana Charter School Network serves as Indiana's Charter School Association. Majority of charter schools are due-paying members. So this is a network of charter schools. Charter schools are public schools open to all Hoosier students. They get their name from charter or contract. Totally, they do not charge tuition. Unlike some traditional public schools, no student is forced to attend a charter school. Parents make the decision to send their children to a charter because they believe it will be the best educational environment for their student. A lottery must be held if the number of students who wish to attend the charter school is greater than the number of available seats in the school. Okay. What implications might come from all of the schools in Indianapolis being charter schools? Do we think that this will make our schools and our education better? To me, whenever we have this specific statement here that is like on the very first third paragraph of the charter schools, unlike traditional public schools, no student is forced to attend a charter school. Parents make the decision to send their children to a charter because they believe it will be the best education environment for their student. But if it's the only education environment, where do the kids go to school who aren't, like, do kids still have to go to school? Like, we as a state have decided that children need to be in school for a certain amount of time, and it is illegal for you to keep your children out of school without providing other alternatives. So homeschooling and meeting certain requirements for those things, or charter schooling, which is another alternative, private schooling, another alternative, Montessori schooling, another type of private school. So, like, what happens to the kids who aren't forced and don't have those, like, state, I guess, like, people from the school who are trying to make sure that these kids are coming to school, to make sure that these problems are resolved? Like, will they just fall off the bottom of the rung like I would have? I mean, for me, growing up in Southern Indiana, after 12, I started living with my dad, who was schizophrenic, undiagnosed at that point. But I didn't go to school all the time, and they knew they would come get me. They would show up. They would, like, make sure that I was there on the bus. They would call my dad. Like, it would be a pain to try and get out of going to school. Will charter schools be required to have the same type of enforcement and requirements and resources that public schools need to have to enforce these types of things, to make sure not that kids are in school because, like, it's something, but that, like, one, like, when kids are in school, it's typically a little bit safer if we fund our schools properly. It's much safer than running around on the streets, being stuck at home, being involved with, like, the people who are out during the day, which are typically adults. Like, I skipped school all the time in high school, and I would just go goof off with the randos, smoke random cigarettes. Like, I got lucky that I didn't get into harder shit, And when I'm looking at this, I question, is it the right move that charter schools are going to be the only schooling in our city, or other public schools, or other private schools? No public schools. We're getting rid of the public schools. This is HB1136, by the way. Charter schools created to allow schools to operate with more flexibility and regulation in return for being held to a stricter accountability framework. So maybe another way that we could think of HB 1136 than selling off or giving away. I got to read more of this bill to understand if they're selling or just giving it away. Maybe I can think of this as like, hey, if they're trying to get rid of these schools and make them all charter schools, maybe the solution is to say, we're going to give you a more flexible and less regulation, as we do for charter schools. We're going to give you the same rules as charter schools, but still operate as a public school with some of the same things. Is there a way that we could amend the laws that still keep these assets that we've, been developing since 1847 in our state to be a thing for our community? Is there a way that we can do that? Indiana law requires charter school organizations to be run by nonprofit boards. Traditional brick and mortar charter schools, virtual charter schools, adult charter schools. Okay, cool. Who attends charter schools? 4.8 of all Indiana public school students. Interesting. I'm just kind of scanning this. I know. Okay, that's pretty much everything that they have about them. Okay, so I think one of the things kind of getting back, if you all are watching on Instagram, I'm on YouTube too, youtube.com/@mffred to see my screen where I'm looking at all this stuff. Okay, getting back to the synopsis. School corporation reorganization. So I don't think it's a sale. And I'm going to look through, let's see how they're going to do this. Dissolution and reorganization of school corporations. Chart applies to a school corporation in which more than 50% of students who are in that school district, school corporation, are not enrolled in the school back in 2024, so last fall. I think that's silly, personally. We need to give them more time to resolve. So let's write that down. Things that we're thinking about this. Fall 2024. People need more time. They need more time to resolve the problems. They need more time to attract. There's no clear outline. No clear outline of like what's going on. Okay, so 50% from 2024. The governing body of the school corporation is dissolved, and the governing board established under Section 4 of this chapter has all powers and duties that the governing body of a school corporation has. Wait. The governing board established under Section 4. Hold on. For a school corporation described in Section 2 of this chapter, a new governing board is established that consists of the following 7 members. Hold on. I thought it don't our Indiana our school boards is the IPS school board publicly elected. God, Google, please fix my problem. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. So, we're going from public elected board. Oops. To 4 members appointed by the governor. So the governor gets 4 buddies. Gov. Put a little number 4 next to him. The governor gets 4 buddies. 1 member appointed by the mayor of the city. Oh, wait. So the governor gets 4 people to decide who's in charge. The mayor of that city, who understands that community probably better than most people, the mayor gets 1. And 1 member appointed by the president of the fiscal body for the county. So the county gets 1. So the county, like, money guy gets 1. And 1 member appointed by the executive director of the charter school. Wait a second. Okay. So, if we're looking at this, we're literally moving from if... Okay, let me lay this out. If we have a school that has less than, or school district with less than 50% of those students in that school district's area enrolled in the school district, so 50% less, then that means that the governing board, the elected board, the people that we elected as citizens is dissolved. That we're totally dissolving that board, and then that all the powers of that board are given over to 4 guys that the governor chose, 1 guy that the mayor chose, 1 guy that the county financier person, county, financial whatever board body chose, and then the charter school. So already it's an uneven board leaning toward the governor. So we're going from a publicly elected board to a majority of homies of the governors who are deciding what happens for these schools. Who are those people who are appointed by the governor? There's no requirements. Where are the requirements? Like, let me write this. I'm gonna do a circle. What the fuck? WTF? Where? Oops, I can't write. Where requirements. This is a poorly thought out. This is clearly a very poorly thought out thing. Where are the requirements here? Four members, like majority governor run? Majority governor run board. That's crazy. Okay. That's nuts. Okay, so they're literally going to take, if there are less than 50% of students living in a school district who are enrolled in that school district's schools, then they're going to take the publicly elected board of people from our school and from our school district, and they're going to say, nope, you're no longer in charge. Now, 4 dudes, and I'm saying dudes, they're probably going to be white guys, let's be honest. 4 dudes from the governor's homies, 1 mayor homie, 1 county homie, and 1 charter school homie. So the mayor's basically in charge of the governor's basically in charge of what happens, because the governor can choose people who do what he wants them to do instead of choosing people who have to be accountable to be elected and like do what we want them to do. That's fucked up. Okay. So, moving on. The governing board of the school corporation is dissolved. All powers, duties, assets, and liabilities are transferred. The fuck? Okay. Transferred all powers, duties, assets, and liabilities. Transfer the new governing board. Assets. Okay. So look at this. And duties. I mean, yeah, they got to do some work. But like, they are literally given the power to do whatever they want with any of the things. So four of the governor's homies have the power to run the school corporation because they can vote with each other if they want to, because they could easily be yes men for the governor who are waiting on a new job, because that's how conservative politics and politics in general typically wins when you're in charge. It becomes that. Stupid. All public schools operated by the school corporation must be transitioned to operating as charter schools no later than July 1st, 2028. What if that was the deadline for increasing enrollment? Like, why didn't you say something like, hey, we need to increase enrollment as long as you're showing a 2% improvement per year in enrollment in July, and we're going to release more funding so that you can do a better job of improving your schools? Like, there's a much better alternative than literally transferring all the duties, assets here. Look, remember, we are a business-focused country. We are a bunch of business people who are trying to like make more money off of each other. So whenever you see something like all of the assets are transferred to the from the school corporation to the new governing board, that means that 4 people who know the governor, who are homies of the governor, who got appointed to this thing, who aren't elected, who aren't responsible to be elected, who aren't held accountable in any kind of way, are now deciding what happens to school corporations who had a bad enrollment, less than 50% in these districts that were enrolled in public schools from last fall, like fall of 2024. We're not giving them any time to improve. We're not giving them any guidelines, any help. Like, we could absolutely spend the time that we're spending here saying, hey, we know that our school corporations have failed and are failing because they are underfunded. We're not going to just do a study. We're going to create a bunch more jobs and a bunch more teachers, and we're going to do a much better job funding this so that we can resolve this problem. And we're going to be working to resolve it so that we don't have only 50%. We could be competitive, but instead we've hired, elected, and then eventually we've elected 1 person who can then choose 4 people if they want, who do whatever they want to this. Like, that is not a good way to run a society where like we want to feel like we have empowerment. Maybe that's not the goal. Anyway, the lowest performing schools of the school corporation, based on the statewide assessment program results, must be the first to transition. So bad schools transition first. Bad test scores transition first. all like chicken scratchy notes that I'm writing. If you just joined youtube.com/@mffred, I am like literally the @ sign. I'm doing this with my iPad so you can see what I'm writing instead of like just watching this zit on my face. It's slowly going away. Oh my God, it was so gross and painful. Section 4. For a school corporation... Oh, wait. Oh, I missed something. The lowest schools must transfer. The school corporation's central office must cease operations. Everyone's fired. Bye. Fire them. Fire them. We're going to write that because that's a vibe. It's very... Make a little fire. Look at me. I'm the governor. I'm the state. I'm going to fire all these teachers and teacher support people. School corporation may not impose any new referendum tax levies, so they can't spend more money. They can't do more taxes, spend more money, or extend any existing referendum tax levies to try and improve their school's position to fight this. You're literally going and being like, we've been underfunding you for years. We're going to keep doing it, and now you're dead. And it's like, well, why are you telling me? Like, why don't you just shut them down right now? Like, why are we even passing a law about it? You know, it's just like, it's just ridiculous. Like, you might as well just, like, you're writing the death warrant of our public schools. Come on, guys. Like, we've been defending this since 1847. That was, like, one of the first things that we did in the state. Like, there's a reason. There's a reason why we don't want only private schools. Like, yeah, they're nonprofits, they're private. They have all these freedoms to like keep out, you know, maybe certain types of special needs students that typically would go to public schools. Like, oh, come on, guys. It's so stupid. Anyway, section 4. For a school corporation described in section 2 of this chapter, a new governing board. Oh, we talked about that. 4 of the governor's homies. Section 5. A governing board established under section 4 of this chapter shall have all the powers, duties, oversee the dissolution of the existing school districts, create a uniform accountability framework for all public schools located within the geographic boundaries of the former school corporation that ensures low-performing schools are replaced with higher-performing organizers in a uniform manner and frequency. Okay, so... All right, I'm going to write this. I'm going to do some highlighting here and write some notes. Create a uniform accountability framework for all public schools. That sounds really cool. Remember who's making this? The governor's 4 homies are making this uniform accountability framework for all public schools that are in the geographic boundaries of the former school corporation. That's like, it's kind of not, it's just not that important. I'm just going to put it in gray. I mean, it's important for the law, but it's not important for us to like understand it. This is like those tests in school where they ask you to go in and be like, hey, here's a big paragraph, like tell me how many apples Johnny had. The laws are kind of like this. Create a uniform accountability framework for all public schools located within the geographic boundaries of the former school corporation that ensures low-performing schools are replaced in red, replaced with higher performing organizers in a uniform manner. Okay, these uniform accountability framework idea. Okay, oops, that's the wrong pin. Uniform accountability framework. Remember, this is made by the governor's buddies. It's a 4 versus 3 vote. All not publicly elected people who are deciding what this uniform accountability made by Gov Buddies. These are people appointed, not elected, appointed, given the power by somebody else. Coordinate with authorizers to facilitate. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm going to go back. I don't need to skip forward. My ADHD gets me all the time. Okay, so they're making this uniform accountability framework that ensures that low-performing schools are replaced with higher-performing organizers. So literally, they're going to look at the schools that aren't doing well, and they're just going to say, hey, everybody who works here, y'all are fired, you're laid off. We're transitioning everything over. We are going to get new organizers, and they're going to decide how everything operates and runs. And these operators are charter schools, because that's what the law says. These new operators are nonprofit organizations called charter schools that, I don't know if you're like me, if you've ever worked in the nonprofit field, there's a pretty common thing where you can take assets from nonprofits and then slowly make them harder and harder to operate until you sell off all of the assets that the nonprofit has, and then the nonprofit dissolves. Maybe that's the goal long term. I don't know if this is going to be a better alternative than public schools, as they were originally envisioned, and if we properly funded them, might be. Okay, coordinate with authorizers, Section 5.4, I don't know what it's called, I'm not a lawyer. Coordinate with authorizers to facilitate biannual charter application cycles. So they gotta keep applying for their charters. Recruit high-performing organizers to operate schools as the schools operated by a school corporation or transition to charter schools. High-performing organizers. How are you defining that? High-performing organizers. How do you define that? That's a very interesting thing to me. So, how is this defined? And if you all are on my Instagram right now, you can go to my YouTube and see my iPad that I'm drawing on here. youtube.com/@mffred. Okay. High-performing organizers. How do we define that? Who are these high-performing organizers? One thought in my mind is, how are these high-performing organizers, how are they actually being chosen? How are they qualified? Are they qualified in those specific demographics, in those areas, in the specific problems? These types of things are so vague, and they are going to end up being defined by 4 of the governor's buddies and 3 people who could say no and still get overridden. 1 from the mayor, 1 from the county, 1 from the charter schools, which will probably vote with whoever the majority is if it's in their favor. Create the condition for the organizers described in Subdivision 5 to succeed, as we talked before about making sure there's a plan, making sure these schools do well, blah, 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 whatever. Ensure that all public schools located within the geographic boundaries of the former school corporation participate in common systems of enrollment and expulsion. Okay. That sounds common systems for enrollment and expulsion. So, if all of the schools in our district in Indianapolis are all having the same rules of enrollment and expulsion, because we have taken all of the public schools and transitioned them into private schools, if we have made that transition of turning all of these into charter schools, then this common system for enrollment and expulsion to me seems like we could start creating little pockets of people that just don't have access to education, because we could have really specific rules on how we deal with certain types of behaviors that are being defined by the governor's 4 main homies in the charter schools. So if you are not white, you probably have dealt with a problem with someone having a negative opinion of your hairstyle, whether it's braids, cornrows, locks. I don't know all the different hairstyles. They're so cool. There's so many hairstyles. And for some reason, white school teachers hate them. They just spend all of this time making it unfortunate for people who are in school. And I saw it. I remember I had a friend with a fro, just really big hair, ended up playing for I don't know, European NBA, whatever that's called. I know it's not the NBA, but he had his hair, it was huge, and it was just always a problem for the teacher. When are you going to cut your hair? It's dude, shut up. You're wasting all of our time. As students, we got bored with it. And it's we are now allowing this idea of enrollment and expulsion to be defined not school by school, where a school has the ability to like decide the types of behavior that are normal in that school district because they represent a certain community that may grow up with different values or may grow up with a different socioeconomic status, different access to things like clothing, or for instance, like we didn't always have good clothes as a kid. Like I didn't always have good shoes as a kid. We're starting to like try so hard to force our society into like a specific box that we don't realize like we're just creating more of the same problem. This isn't resolving it. Okay. All right. So we're at section 7. First of all, look how long this damn law is. Like, it's not even that long, but it's just so annoying. Having all loving authority that a school corporation has under state law and rule. So, wait a second. Common systems of expulsion, all levying authority that a school corporation has under state law and rule. Levying, it means taxes. That means that they can tax us. So, they have all of the authority that a school corporation has. So 4 guys from the governor can enact more like taxes. I don't like this, man. I don't like this at all. I don't like this like transition from a publicly elected board to this like board of 4 douches that some guy chose. Okay. I need a drink of water. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab a drink. I've been sitting here talking for like 50 minutes. I haven't even grabbed a drink. All right, I'll be right back. Put on the ambient music again. Ooh, I made this earlier. We'll make a new one. We're talking about HB1136. I'm also on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/@mffred. You know what? I bet I could draw it. Let me do that while I'm sitting here, because that'll be kind of fun. While I go grab a drink. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this whole live streaming thing, and I'm really choosing to do it. One, like, I like to spend time doing these types of projects where I'm looking at like, laws and things by myself. Like I just spend time doing it anyway, and I'm like, dude, people are like, how do you understand this stuff? And I'm just gonna try and explain it, do more things, I don't know, on the internet. I don't live my life on the internet, but I live too much time on the internet. So at mffred. The reason I'm doing this on my iPad is because I think it's going to be mirrored. Let's see if this, can you even see it? Yeah, it's probably mirrored, isn't it? Let me just mirror it again. This is the technology, baby. I love my iPad. Okay. I'll be right back. I'm grabbing a drink. We're talking about HB1136. We're like half the way through the bill. I'm back. Ooh. Yes, that is the link to the bill. You can download that PDF. Right now, it looks like you might be looking at that bill. We'd love to see it. Mojistic in the mix right now. Where were we at? Okay, cool. All right. Back on that screen sharing vibes. Let me summarize this bill while we are back at the beginning of, me grabbing a drink. So, HB 1136 says that if 50%, if less than 50% of the students in a specific school district are enrolled in those public schools, then they will transition the board of that school board. So IPS is one of these schools. And by the way, that enrollment is based on 2024 numbers, so fall of 2024. So if in fall of 2024, a specific school district had less than 50% enrollment in the public schools, they will be transitioned to a new board. So the publicly elected board, the board that all citizens of that area voted for, are going to be transitioned from a publicly elected board into a board that is created by a couple different people. That board is created by the governor, who gets to appoint 4 people. So 4 of those people are from the governor, 4 governor homies, 1 from the mayor of that school district. So Mayor Hogsett could put a homie in. We would have 1 from the financial person. So there would be like a finance guy from that county. So Marion County's finance person would be there. And then finally, the 3rd person is going to be the charter school guy. There's a charter school guy. So now we have 4 people from the governor, 3 people from 3 different areas who are deciding on a lot of different things. They are now in charge of the school districts, and they are going to have to transition the lowest performing school districts first and then work their way to all the other school districts, transitioning them into charter schools, or all the other public schools into charter schools. So they have to do that. They have to create a uniform framework. So 4 guys from the governor, 3 other people get to create a uniform framework for all schools. They seem very qualified to do that. I don't know who they are, but it seems really odd that those are the people that we want to do this job. To make sure that low-performing schools are replaced with high-performing organizers. This is a term. High-performing in what way? What do you mean by high-performing? This is so vague. This is so unthought out. Like high-performing organizers. Maybe we say things like organizers who understand the school districts in those areas. But no, of course, this is a law trying to hand the power of an elected body into the hands of 4 people from the governor. That's what's happening. Okay. Coordinate with authorizers to facilitate charter applications. That's boring. We don't care about that. High-performing organizers. Recruit high-performing organizers to operate schools as schools operated by a school corporation and transition to charter schools. Like, again, high-performing, what do you mean? People who have worked in those demographics, who understand that school? No, probably not. Create a condition, probably like white guy high-performing. Just the fact they're using the term high-performing, it's like such a stupid idea. There's no qualifications. Put some fucking qualifications in here. Sorry, cuss words make my mouth dry. Ensure that all public schools located within a geographic boundary of this former school corporation participate in common systems of enrollment and expulsion. So we're going to take and make sure that all the schools follow the same rules on who gets to be in, who gets to be out. I get it. I understand. I get that people... Also, Luke, you said this on YouTube. I want to address this. I totally agree. There are definitely some very great charter schools out there. I also think that a lot of times you'll find that there are very great charter schools that typically pull certain types of groups of students who are very great students and hollow out the public schools in a way where typically the bad students who wouldn't fit into charter schools are stuck in those schools. So like people whose parents don't spend the time and have the money, maybe can't drive them to school, they rely on public transit like the school bus to get to class, like I did as a kid. So I wouldn't have been able to be enrolled in a charter school. There wasn't one close enough to my house. My family, just didn't have the time to make sure that I could get to and from school. Didn't have the understanding of like what these things were. Didn't understand any of the benefits. And there weren't that many charter schools back then. It was 2008 when I graduated high school. It would have been, the early 90s. We didn't have that concept. We've been going pretty well since like 1847 with public schools. Now we have this new thing. Maybe it's just a new idea. Maybe it's a new fad. I don't know. But also, they do some good. Thank you for that comment, Luke. I just saw it. Okay. 8, have all levying authority. They can do taxes. So 4 guys from the governor, remember, have the freedom to levy taxes on you and me. They're not elected officials. They're chosen by the governor. Create and implement a dissolution plan to improve operational support to all public schools located within the geographic boundary of the former school district. Carry out subdivisions 1 through 8, which were up above. Collect and distribute any funds received under Section 6 of this chapter, including collecting and distributing referendum tax levy revenue in a manner that is, to the extent possible, consistent with the original purposes and the use of the tax referendum levy revenue. Okay, I think what they're saying is that they need to make sure that they're following all the rules. I'm going to make a note here. I'm going to highlight this in yellow because this is like a weird one that has a lot of terms that I probably don't understand from a legal perspective. But I'm going to put like a little question and be like, collect and distribute any funds received under Section 6 of this chapter. Create the conditions for ordinance described in Section 5. Section 6. Where's Section 6? Oh, they're below. Sorry. That's probably why I was confused. Collect and distribute any funds received under Section 6 of this chapter. And Section 6 says, notwithstanding any other state law or rule, the county auditor shall distribute. Notwithstanding any other state law or rule, the county auditor shall distribute any funds collected with regard to the school corporation to the governing board established under Section 4. So whenever they get this money from the county auditor, they will then collect and distribute that money using the original manner, to the extent possible, consistent with the original purposes. So what happens? Because here's original extent, like that terminology to me. Original extent. That feels like something that will be extorted in this term. So, for instance, the original extent possible, consistent with the original purposes, and the use of the tax referendum levy revenue. Like, to me, it's like original extent seems like something that you could kind of fudge on if you were a person who knew how to play law games. So, like, if you were going through and you're like, hey, what is the original extent of this funding? The original extent is probably, I don't know, to do this for this specific job or to create this specific office. Well, maybe they say, well, that office doesn't exist anymore, that school doesn't exist anymore. We can do what we want with those taxes. Original extent, what happens if there's no original extent? So what happens with no original intent, not extent? Original purpose. I'm gonna put original purpose. That's a better word. P-U-R, oh my god. Purpose. P-U-R-P-O-S-E. What happens with no original purpose? O-G purpose. Perp. No O-G perp. Okay. Ensure parity in the distribution of local tax dollars. This is the boring stuff, man. This is why these laws suck. Like, why, whenever you look at this thing, you're like, oh, this is so hard. And now as we go down, we have things. Section 6, any other state law or rule, the county auditor shall distribute any funds, and then those people have to, like, distribute the funds into the original purpose of those funds, hopefully. Ensure parity in the distribution of local tax dollars amongst all public schools in the geographic boundary of the former school corporation. So making sure that those public schools... here's where I'm kind of confused. Like, it seems to me like they keep saying public schools. I'm guessing they're saying, like... Are they basically just trying to, like... It seems to me, now that I'm, like, reading more through this. So we're looking at House Bill 1136, for those of you who are just joining. This is on YouTube, too. That basically, the school corporation gets dissolved, but the public schools are... all public schools are transitioned to charter schools. Yeah. The law is even vague. The law doesn't even make sense. Like, reading through the law, it just seems super, super awkwardly thought out, poorly thought out, not well done. But I'm going to Cliff Notes this bill as I currently see it. We've been doing a little bit of research. We've been live streaming on YouTube for like an hour now, so if you want to see all of the conversation. HB1136's goal is to take the school districts that we have and the publicly elected school board that we have chosen, all of the people that we in the city have chosen to represent us and make sure that our students are on the right path to being good citizens. It is decided that we're taking all those chosen people and we're going to replace them with a new board of 4 people chosen by the governor, 1 person chosen by the mayor, 1 person chosen by the charter school board, and then 1 person chosen by the county auditor, probably, or county assessor, some sort of county like financial board. And we're going to give them all of the powers to levy new taxes for the schools. We're going to give them all the powers to do, I get a thumbs up, that's fun. To levy taxes. We're giving them all of the powers to transition these schools. We're giving them all of the control of the assets. Remember, these are non-elected people. This is 4 people from the governor and 3 other people, 1 from the county, 1 from the mayor, and 1 from the charter schools. Like, we're giving them all of this power and we're taking it away from an elected board at the end of the day. And the goal is that all of these schools will have a uniform set of rules. Here's the rules to be in, here's the rules for expulsion. If you get expelled and there's no other public schools because they've all been dissolved, where do you go to school? Do you have to move? Do you have to travel outside of the city to find a school, another public school that will even take you? Do you drop out and get your GED whenever you're 16 or something? Like, when I look at this law, this is very much in the same line of reasoning as a lot of the laws that we've seen in Indiana over the last decade-ish. More and more of the leaders inside of our government are trying to take control away from elected boards, from individual people who are chosen by people who they feel represent them, to govern our society, and giving it over to a small number of people who maybe some of them are very qualified and very good, but many times are not. Very much working towards having less and less power being enacted by the people and more power being enacted by individuals. And I think a lot of us will be like, well, people are stupid and they make dumb decisions. But we weren't there 30, 40, 50 years ago. Like, if you look back at the American populace over the last 50 years, like, we have sold out the institutions, we've sold out the values, we've sold out the ideas. I think really starting in the 1970s with the idea of like focusing on shareholder value as kind of the main focus of our society. Like, it originally started as like just businesses need to focus on shareholder value, but everything has become a business. Like, yes, I understand that like charter schools do operate well, and there's some very great charter schools out there. But I think the idea that we are not using charter schools with some of their original intent, which was to be an alternative to try out, new and interesting ideas, giving the freedom for, specific students and specific families to kind of seek after those like new ways to be educated and ways to learn. I think whenever we look at that, they want to make us dumb. Yeah, they want to make us dumb. The goal is to make us dumber. And I think a lot of times we focus on making us dumb as like just the education system. But I see it as the way that like society is organized. We continue to work more and more and have to spend more and more time trying to make a living and spend less and less time like in community doing the things that we love. Everyone is working as much as they can to get by. At least if you're below the 50% mark of income, and probably in that 80%, range of people. Like, we are in a really tough transition period as a society, and the battle is being done like in law. The battle is being done, as it always has, in the legislation that we have and in the rules that our society plays by. And like, I get it. I get that we want schools to be better, that we want things to improve, and we want our society to look the way that we want it to look. centuries to try and create the infrastructures and the experiences that we have on a daily basis in our society. And we've questioned those values because and those institutions because like they have been sold out. They've been kind of thumbs up. They've basically been like death by 1,000 cuts. Like we have taken a small little bit here, and a small little bit here, a small little bit here, a small little bit here, and now we're left with something that looks so radically different than it probably did in our original conception of what it could have been in 2025. And I think that because we're in this transition period and there is this like huge swing of power, that this is a time for us to like, as people who believe in like a better society, to really work towards understanding and like educating each other, because it really comes down to each of us individually spending the time doing it. Like we have to put in the effort, as annoying as it is, to make this culture a little bit better. And it will come down to the individuals as these institutions are being, I think, and I feel like there's some evidence to show this, they're being sold. Like we're taking institutions that we've worked long and hard for, and we're selling them off over time. And it doesn't look like that today. It will look like that tomorrow. It will look like that in 10 years. It will look like that in 5 years, because we've created this cycle that people have found a way to exploit. And until we break down that cycle and we actually decide what things are going to be protected by our society, because they're more important than just the financial gain that they give to an individual, and rather they're important to a society defining itself not only in opposition to other societies, but in its own way. Like our education system and the experiences that we have there, the experiences of senior pranks, like these are stories that have created so much of Hollywood, have created so much TV, have created so much of the things that we love experiencing on a daily basis, and so many of the experiences that we've had have been influenced by education. And I think giving that power back to the people and ensuring that that power is not wielded by the people like a pencil to a gunfight, that instead we are actually coming with a better understanding of like how we're resolving these issues for the long term, rather than just trying to sell it off and saying, well, we tried that experiment and we're done with it. No, I think that we are in a transition period. People are trying to figure out what it means to be a citizen and how we survive. We have been bought and sold way too often, and so here we are, like, trying to figure it out. But I don't know. There's my thought for the day. There's my little live stream. Thank you all for watching. I'll probably be on another day. I don't know when. Probably next Monday. Thanks, y'all. Peace.